Why is no one talking about the Epstein files anymore? I feel like this is insane because it's like these these files are a huge, huge, huge deal and nobody's talking about them anymore. And I feel like it's so urgent to bring to attention. You know, I have spent a lot of time reading documents, researching about Epstein files, and I feel like people don't realize how big of a thing this is. The Epstein files are proof that the elite can do whatever they want to and they can get away with it. This is the problem with the Epstein files. It is always going to be insane to me how not a single person, apart from like a few people, Maxwell is in jail, right? Prince Andrew was removed from, no, Andrew was removed from the royal family. And all of this is happening, but we're forgetting the main question here. Whatever happened on that island, it happened. And it happened with a lot of people in our day that we see in our daily life, like on the screens or public figures. They were involved in these things, and nobody was aware till everyone was aware. And there are documents still being withheld from the government. 3 million files. 3 million. Do you realize how big of a number that is? 3 million files were released. But that is just the tip of the iceberg. There are more. And if this is not evidence of the fact that this could also be happening currently, right now, and people could still be suffering, people could still be getting trafficked, and people could still have, the rich people could still be enjoying themselves without having to worry about the law or, like anything at all. The current president of the United States is a convicted rapist. He is also somebody who has been mentioned in Epstein files, the released Epstein files, by the way. There are more Epstein files which have not been released to the public yet. He has been mentioned in the Epstein files more times than Harry Potter has been mentioned in the Harry Potter books. And that's kind of not a very accurate, like, not a very good comparison, but I feel like it's important to address that. There is document proof of Dump, Donald Dump raping a 14-year-old child. And I do not want to hear anybody say young woman or anything. That's a child. That is a child. And everything that happened was without that child's consent because that child cannot give consent. That is a child. Okay. Another thing is the sheer insanity of realizing that so many people, Stephen Hawking, Bill Gates, Andrew, tons of other people were involved with Jeffrey Epstein, were involved in so much of what happened. And by the way, it wasn't just trafficking, which in itself is a horrible, horrible crime. It was obviously rape and sex trafficking, but it was also, there has been like actual, like, some people speculate with whatever has been released that there was some kind of eugenicist thing going on where Jeffrey Epstein wanted to have people from his gene pool and he forced teenagers to be pregnant with his children and give birth to those children. And there is footage of babies on Epstein's island, on Epstein's estates and his properties. There has been a footage of one of the Jeffrey Epstein footages. There's like a DNA parenting thing, like a test sort of thing on his desk. And this isn't just in the America. This is an international thing that's happening. It's international because there are videos of people like singing in some crazy foreign languages, which I highly doubt is somebody who is an American would do. It just didn't feel they felt like they were singing their song, their nation song or something like that. I don't know. This is clearly like an insane thing, and there are so many people. The person who is in power in the United States right now is one of the people who was involved in all of this. And it's not even, it's insane how we turn things into jokes. This is not something that's funny. Whenever I hear somebody make a joke about Epstein files, I just, it makes me so angry from within, because there are so many people. We all know about the Virginia Giuffre. Virginia Giuffre was one of the most active and one of the most verbal victims of Jeffrey Epstein. She unfortunately passed away, but she wrote a book called Nobody's Girl. And in this book, she implicates so many people. But she is somewhat kind. I wouldn't say the word kind, but she does not implicate Donald Trump in anything, which makes people question, was he really involved? But that's not something we should look upon, considering that this is the victims, this is one victim. There were thousands, I believe, I'm not sure. There were probably at least 100 or so victims. And the sheer atrocity of what happened on that island is just, it's unfathomable by me. And the thing is, now I'm going to sound a little insane, and I'm going to sound like a crazy conspiracy theorist. But Jeffrey Epstein, this is my opinion. I'm not stating facts. I'm not saying that yes, this is what happened. But I believe, it is my opinion, that Jeffrey Epstein is still alive. We all know that Jeffrey Epstein died in his prison cell, but out of the 11 cameras near his prison cell, or in the block of his prison cell, only 3 were working that day, and those 3 did not show any direct footage of Jeffrey Epstein's cell, like not even close to it. The Jeffrey Epstein footage, like the footage, there was a YouTube video on it, which a lot of people said, like, in which the person who made the video was talking about how this footage is, not exactly what the public was promised. Then there was a picture of Jeffrey Epstein's supposed dead body, like it was his face, he was like lying down or something. A mortician on YouTube dissected this image and concluded that that is not a dead man. That is simply a man who is lying down and closing his eyes. Another important thing to notice is that Jeffrey Epstein was on suicide watch. And when a person is on suicide watch, a guard is watching the person 24/7. Okay? But somehow, the guards watching Jeffrey Epstein fell asleep. You are watching one of the most insane criminals of the nation. Not insane as in mentally insane, but one of the most notorious criminals of the nation. Because he's been placed on suicide watch. Something which is so integral, it is something that is so important that you're supposed to monitor him 24/7, and you fall asleep. There was no service for Jeffrey Epstein. Now, a man like him doesn't deserve a service, but his brother or anyone else would have kept a service. We don't know where his body is. And while I believe the theories were debunked, people are saying that there's a man in Israel roaming around with like a team of security people who looks exactly like Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein's case is just so bad, and I feel like people are forgetting about this case with more stuff coming into the media about everything, because, of course, Donald Trump started a war to distract people from the fact that he raped kids. It's insane to me that people are not talking about this anymore. I feel like there are not a lot of major media channels or anyone is really covering this. And we need to still push for the files to be fully released. There was a group of independent journalists who snuck onto formerly Jeffrey Epstein's island, and they raised a flag which said release the files. It was absolutely insane. And it was such an important thing. This is the importance of independent media. This is the importance of showing that, yes, we demand the files to be released. And the thing is, this is just seeing that we already know it. There's also like some traces of like cannibalism and like babies being eaten. That is like, I don't know what the substantial evidence for that is. So I'm not making this as a claim that yes, that's what happened, but it's just important to realize that if so much is happening and if so much has happened, then what is the evidence that it's not continuing and that there are still rich people out there who are doing these crimes? If you read Virginia Dufresne's book, if you read some of this victims and the survivors' accounts, and realize that this is only what has been released to the public and there's more, it just makes you wonder, are there still people out there who are doing stuff like this? And I'm sure there are, considering how evil the world is. And also the fact that if this is what they're willing to show us, how much is being hidden? We need to keep the files in the media. We need to keep them in the news. We need to pressure the government to release these files. And it's so important because there could be so many political figures. There could be so many people who are still linked to this, but their names have not been shown because the files were, one, they were redacted heavily, and two, they haven't even been released. Like, all of them haven't even been released. Yeah, yeah. It's just frustrating. So intensely frustrating. And imagine being a survivor of Jeffrey Epstein's acts and just realizing that the people who are governing a major, major nation in the world are the people who hurt you. And they're trying to cover up what they did by starting a war and killing innocents and making a whole elementary school of little girls grow up and just the sheer atrocities of what is happening due to the rich, due to the elite, due to the rich white men of the world. It's just, and although Ghislaine Maxwell deserves hell, she is a horrible person. Ghislaine Maxwell did point something out. She said, why is it that I am the one in jail and all the other men who were involved in this are roaming free? Now, Ghislaine Maxwell should be in jail. She should be killed. She should be tortured. She deserves hell for what she did to those girls and what she put them through and what she, facilitated. However, she does have a slight point when she says that. Why is every man implicated in the Epstein files roaming free? And that might even apply for Jeffrey Epstein himself.